All right, well, welcome everybody. This is the Acumatica User Forum, and we're going to be discussing warehouse management. I don't know how many of the users out there are actually using warehouse management or they're considering using warehouse management with Acumatica. But it is a separate licensed module to allow you to do barcode scanning with your receiving, your picking, your shipping process within Acumatica. So it uses the existing processes that are more manual in Acumatica, and it just allows you to automate that through the barcode scanning. All right, I am Laura Kay. I am an application consultant, Acumatica Application Consultant with Action Associates. Been with Action for, oh gosh, well over 20 years with several different ERP products, and in the last 5 years with Acumatica. My background is distribution and warehouse management, so that's kind of why I'm on the phone call today. I don't know, we'll just talk a little bit about some housekeeping things with Acumatica, just making you guys aware that there's always the Acumatica community out there on their portal. If anybody has a login, it allows you to search the community, go get product ideas, news announcements, also any issues with the software are out there on the Acumatica community as well. Also, Acumatica has their Open University, so there's that URL at the bottom that you can go there. Again, if you have a sign-in, you have a login from the portal, you also can use that same login to go directly to their Open University. It gives you job aids, videos, learning paths, a whole course catalog in regards to different areas of the Acumatica software. All right. Let's dive into talking today about the warehouse management. I just want to go over some key points. If you do get licensed or if you already have a license for the warehouse management module, you do have to go into the enable disable features within warehouse management. And you do have to enable warehouse management first. And then there's some options as to how you want to use warehouse management. So let's go through some of the setup, and I'll just go into the demo version so that you guys can see what I'm talking about here. So I'm in a demo version of Acumatica. I've made my dashboard be the warehouse manager, so you can see that there's some widgets in here, allows me to see visibility to shipments, purchase orders, any transfers, allows me to see my fill rate. So these are kind of things that come out of the box with Acumatica. They do allow you to create your own dashboards and edit dashboards as well. But for this purpose, we're going to just walk through the setup and how you enable warehouse management. So if anybody's familiar with enable disable features, and again, this is more of an administrative feature, so we need to make sure that if you're going into this area, you don't turn on and off things that you're already currently using. You would just go into modify, and then down in the inventory section, there is a warehouse management that you do need to have that checked after you get licensed for warehouse management. And then if you decide to do fulfillment, meaning that you're going to be picking and or packing with you would turn on fulfillment. And underneath fulfillment, you have two advanced options. They do have paperless picking now, which allows you to route basically what needs to be picked through the mobile app or through scanners. And then advanced picking, which you have two options there, batch picking or wave picking, which we're really not going to we're not going to demonstrate that today. And then other warehouse management features that you can turn on would be the receiving part of it. There's also some inventory options like doing transfers between warehouses or locations, doing direct receipts or issues outside of like the purchase orders and sales orders, as well as doing like a physical inventory. If you need to do counts, you can do, those are some of the inventory operations that you can do through warehouse management. And then they do allow the ability to do cart tracking as well through the whole process. So that's the first feature that you need to enable. And then there's some setup options. So let's walk through some of those now. Underneath inventory, there is the preferences section. And once you've enabled warehouse management, you will see a tab here for warehouse management as well. And basically, this is where you dictate how you want certain areas of the software or the warehouse management functions to work. So if you're doing inventory receipts, again, this is outside of purchasing receipts. You would want to, say whether you want to use the default quantity, whether you want to use the default reason code as far as from a GL standpoint. Do you want it to always request for a location every time you enter a receipt for each item? Some of the issues, now again, that would be an issue outside of a sales order picking and issuing, to a sales order. This would be just a straight inventory issue. And then transfers, again, those are between warehouses or between warehouse locations. And then the PI count settings, that's your physical inventory. So that's just saying, do you want to have it default to the book quantity while you're doing your counts, or do you want them no visibility to the book quantity? You want them to have to count it and manually enter in what the actual count of each item is. All right, so that's your first preference. The next would be to go through purchases. If you are going to be using the purchase receipt function, the receive and put away function within warehouse management, you would need to make sure that you go to purchase order preferences. Again, you'll have a warehouse management tab, and then you have to say, how are you going to be receiving through the gun? Are you going to be doing a receive and maybe possible put away, separate put away step? I know this is a little confusing, but you do have the option of just doing receiving to the final location where you don't have like a two-step receipt, or you can receive to like a staging location first and then do a put away to the final location. So that's another option for receiving. Do you allow returns through warehouse management through the gun? And then that scan log allows you to see, what you've scanned during the receiving process. And then there's some purchase receipt default settings in here. For example, are you going to be using default quantity from like the purchase order? Are you using default locations based on the item's location? Do you want to request every time you have to put something away you have to tell it where you're putting it away to? So there's just some setup options that you need to kind of review. And again, I don't know if anybody's on the new version of Acumatica, but as I'm highlighting or hovering over these individual fields, I'm seeing the help as I go along instead of having to go up here and get field help, opening up another document and getting field help. So that's a nice feature with 22R2. And then on the sales orders, there are some preferences. Again, if you're going to be using the pick, pack, and ship warehouse management feature, you're going to need to go to sales order preferences and go to warehouse management, and then you're going to have to say which tabs or what functions are you going to be using during the fulfillment or the picking process. So again, are you going to do a pick? Are you going to do a separate pack? Or are you just going to in a separate ship, or are you just going to do a pick and then ship confirm it from there? And again, do allow returns and then to be able to view the status or the log as you're picking. Some of the other functionality within, if you had short shipments, do you allow them with a warning? Do you always forbid short shipments? That's going to dictate, it'll give them a warning on the screen, and then they'll have to say, when they ship confirm, they'll have to basically say, yes, I do want to short ship that one. Producing pick list, do you want to do by pick priority or path priority? Again, that's in the warehouse setup, and I'll show you some of that. And then just some of these other options here, like default location, default lot serial numbers, confirming the weight for each package, that type of stuff. Do you want to print your packing slips with your pick list? So this gives you some functionality, some automation in here as well. And then something else to consider is when you set up your warehouses is, again, in there you can set up, if you are using in those preferences like a default receiving location and maybe a separate put away, it won't ask you for a receiving location, then it will just refer to what you enter here by warehouse. And then this box right here, if that's checked and you do want to use the default location on the item, the stock item at setup screen, then it will always default to that location as opposed to suggesting where to pick from. And then on the actual locations for each warehouse, you have pick priority, and then you have this path. If you were doing like a wave or a batch picking, it will ask you for, it'll put it in order in a certain path depending on what you put here. All right, and then again, if you are going to go further to like carts or totes, you'd have to set those up as well. As far as if you had a separate like sorting or packing location, if you needed to set up carts and totes for that. All right, and then on the stock items themselves, this would be sort of the final layer. Let's go into our inventory again on stock items or non-stock items, because you can scan non-stock items. Let's just look at the setup here. On this screen, you have the default warehouse, so that it always will pick up that. And then the issue from, this is the default issuing or picking from, and then this is the default receipt to, meaning that you're receiving to this location. And that would be part of the, if you did a straight receipt to, it would put it there. If you did a separate put away, it would then assume that you want it to go to the default location if your preferences are set up that way. And then on the cross-reference tab, you could have multiple barcodes specified in the system. So this is where you get those barcodes entered in the system. And again, they could be by unit of measure. One thing to note is that you don't have to fill barcodes in if you're just going to use the inventory ID as the default barcode. But you could be using your own barcode ID if you wanted to, or you could have separate ones by unit of measure. So this is where you would store those. So this is, if you did scan one of these barcodes, it would always refer to and assume it's going to be this inventory ID number. So it can find it either way. Okay. Amy, are you still on the call here? I just want to make sure that we're letting people know how to ask questions or how to post questions in the chat.
I am here. Yep. If anybody would like to ask a question, you can submit it on the Q&A section or the chat feature, and I will be monitoring those. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to type in now. Otherwise, we can continue.
Okay. I just want to get through the setup and see if anybody had any questions before I move on to some of the processing features. Again, this will go pretty fast. So if you have any questions, I would say probably not wait till the end, and we can always discuss them as we go along.
Nothing yet.
All right, great. All right, so let's get into how we're going to do some processing here. So actually, let me go back to my PowerPoint here. References in here. Oh, there is one more thing I wanted to show you guys was the user profile. It's one that I always forget about it, but it actually is really helpful. So if you have somebody, sorry, let's go into the profile here. I don't know if you guys are familiar with setting up the profile, but by user, everybody has their own profile screen, and you can actually set up a default warehouse. So if somebody is picking, it'll automatically default to the warehouse that they're assigned to. So that's another nice feature that's here. If a warehouse isn't on us, it'll also, on any issues or transfers, it'll also default in the warehouse there as well. So that's another nice thing to look at. Okay. Let's walk through just doing like a purchase receipt. So again, we would start with a purchase order in here. So I think I already have some purchase orders that we can look at. And I'm going to get my little mobile app in here as well, so you guys can see as I'm. So again, this is Acumatica's mobile app that you can download to any smart device. And what this allows you to do, if you are going to want to take advantage of the warehouse management functions, is it can be downloaded to any smart device that is Android or iOS compatible. So again, it could be your phone, it could be a tablet, or any scanners, barcode scanners. They have to be Android or iOS compatible as well to be able to obviously download this mobile app too. All right, so we have a purchase order here, and for this demonstration, I'm going to assume that you're able to scan, or you would have a purchase order number, say from the vendor's packing list. So it's going to initiate and ask you to give it the purchase order number to initiate the actual receiving into the warehouse. Also, for this demonstration purposes, I am doing a receive to a standard location, kind of like a default receiving location, and then I'm doing a separate put away process to the final location for each item. So I'm going to walk you through that process as well. But again, that doesn't have to be a two-step process if you don't want. So on the warehouse management, so from the mobile app, you just select warehouse management, and then it basically gives you all of the WMS options here. We're going to start with receive and put away. It's going to ask me to scan the receipt number. This is a little bit deceiving because if you were in packing mode, you would have a receipt number, but in picking mode, sorry, I should say if you were in put away mode, you would know the receipt number that you're putting away. But if you're in receiving mode, you would only know the purchase order. So I know it asks for the receipt number, but we're actually going to be putting in the purchase order number. So it's PO 001952. And again, you have the ability to scan it. There is the, you click on the scan button and it opens up the ability for you to be able to scan a document or scan a barcode. All right. So once I enter the purchase order number in there, what it's doing in the background is actually creating a receipt for you. And then the next step it's going to ask you is to start scanning the barcode of the item. So I am going to go through, and I've got a couple items on this. I'm going to scan my first item. So again, I have some barcodes. Then it's going to tell me, okay, set the quantity. So I can either scan each item individually as a single quantity, or I can click the set quantity at the bottom. And I can say, you know what, let's scan in 5 of those. Okay, so now I've just received in 5 of the ELE boards. Now it's going to ask me to scan the next item. So I'm going to scan my widget. This one happens to the serial number, so I'm either going to scan the serial number, or I'm just going to type in that. So let's do this one. Let's just type in test 10. And again, that's a one-to-one relationship. So if I had another one to scan for that, for the widgets, I can then scan the next one, enter the next serial number, and so on. I also have this review button at the bottom that allows me to see what I've actually scanned in so far. So I've scanned in 5 of those laptop computers, which are the ELE boards, and I've scanned in 1 of the widgets with a serial number of test 10. So that's kind of what that scan log is showing me at that point. Now, if I'm done receiving everything in for this particular receipt, maybe I didn't receive in the whole purchase order, then I can go into put away mode at this point. Actually, I have to release the receipt first. So let's release that receipt. So just like if you were doing a manual receipt, it will basically release the receipt. And then the put away is a separate function, which then basically just does the transfer from my receiving location to the item's final location. So at that point, I'm going to download.
Laura, can I interrupt you for 1 second? I just noticed we had a question. They're asking what version of Acumatica you're working in.
So I am working in version 2022 R2. So I'm at the latest release. As far as the functionality for WMS, though, there really isn't a whole lot of changes with 22R2. So if you're at a lower version, you're going to see a lot of the same functionality there. Okay. All right, so let's go into put away mode now. So we've received that into, and I'll just go back into review real quick so you can see where it actually was received into. I think it's going to show me that location. So it was received into R1S1, which is my row 1, shelf 1. And then same thing with this particular. So that was set up as my default warehouse or default receiving location. Okay, So the two-step process, if you did want to do a separate put away, is I would have to go to change mode at the bottom, and I would go into put away. And now if you notice, it says the active mode is set to put away. So same thing, I got to scan each item and serial number, set the quantity so that I can put it away to the new location. So I'm going to scan the first item, which is my ELE board. And now it's going to ask me to scan the barcode of the destination location. So I'm taking it out of R1S1 and I'm putting it into R1S2. And then I'm also going to do my set quantity, and I'm going to assume that I'm going to put all 5 of those in that location. Now it's going to ask me to scan the next item, which is my widget. Scan or type in my serial number that I'm putting away. And then scan the destination location for that one as well. And that one I'm going to put into R3. Now I can review this and I can see where it's telling me it's putting away. It's putting 5, it's taking 5 out of R1S1 into R1S2 of my ELE boards. And it is taking 1 out of R1S1 into R1S3 of my widgets. So it's just like we did with the release of the receipt, I do have to release what we call it put away, but it's really doing a transfer in the background, an inventory transfer. So I do have to release that transfer in order to complete this. All right, so that is walking through just a receiving and or put away process, assuming that I started off with a purchase order. You know, as far as being able to print labels, you can, you know, again, you have to have location labels to be able to do this. So your warehouse has to be spelled out as far as individual locations. And you do have to have barcode, have each location with a barcode attached to it. And then obviously it's assuming that all of your items will come in with a barcode that you can scan.
Laura, can I interrupt you again? Sorry.
Sure. Go ahead.
Somebody's asking, let's say 5 pieces of part number widget 02 is ordered and only 4 pieces are received. The vendor's not going to ship the back order of 1 piece. How can you call this line complete on the device?
So yeah, there was an option in there is you can complete. You guys didn't see it. I don't know if I can see it on here. Here, let's do the rest of this. Let me just start another one. Let me do another receipt for this purchase order. Okay. Just gonna scan this item. Now you have the option at the bottom is to complete the lines. So I don't know if you guys saw at the bottom where it says complete PO lines. So it's going to assume that you're not going to be receiving in the rest of them. So it'll close out that purchase order from here as well. I hope that answered your question.
He wrote back and said thanks. So I assume so.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to be able to show you that you have the option of doing that from the gun as well. Okay. If there's no more questions on the receive and put away process, we're going to move into the pick, pack, and ship process. So I'm going to assume that I have a sales order out there. And I have an open sales order. Let's go through. Now, I don't know if you guys know, obviously you could print your picking list from the sales order, but you also have a process that you could automate called process orders that allows you to sort of batch pick or batch create your shipments. So, that's something that you could put out there on a schedule and you can have it create your shipments where it goes through. I don't know if you guys do SO order types where it allocates it at the time of creating the shipment, or if you do SAs, which does it at the time of creating the sales order. So, there's different order types out there. So you have the option of saying, hey, I got to get everything out for like carrier UPS, or maybe I just have to get everything out for a particular customer and I want to create all their shipments. So I can do that from here by doing this sort of batch process. So let's create the shipment first so we can get that pick ticket out there for us. And then you can also automate the printing of the pick ticket too. So not only is there a batch process to create the shipment, but there is a batch process to process that shipment and actually print your pick tickets. So it'll go through and say, oh, these are the ones that I haven't printed pick tickets for. And again, you have the ability to schedule it or to filter out, who do you want to print your pick tickets for. For this situation, because I want a pick ticket that actually has some barcodes in it. So Acumatica does give you some options like this pick ticket with item barcodes and then this pick list confirm picked with barcodes. I'm going to use this one that they give you out of the box. And let's print that last shipment that we just created. And I'll show you what that pick ticket's going to look like. And now, again, this is nothing to do with wave or batch picking. This is just I created a shipment, and now I'm going to pick just for this particular shipment. I don't have like a batch pick list to pick from where it has multiple shipments on it. But we'll have a little discussion about that afterwards. So this is shipment 004770, which is nice because it gives me the ability to, again, if you're printing pick tickets in the warehouse, maybe you set up like a system called Device Hub where it knows to route all of your pick tickets to one printer. And then maybe you want your packing list to print when you ship confirm. You can also set that option up as well and have it routed to maybe a different printer. So there's some automation that can happen through not only automation schedules, but there's also some preferences as far as, when you want to print your packing list as well, or your ship confirmation is what Acumatica calls it. So let's go through the pick, pack, and ship process. And in this scenario, I am going to show you, I can show you both ways. I can show you picking, just do a straight picking without doing a separate packing. And maybe we'll just talk about the fact that you can do a separate packing if you need to have it go to a sorting location. But let's just do a straight picking for now. So we're going to initiate the pick, pack, and ship on our gun or on our mobile app. We're going to scan the shipment number, so hopefully it'll read my screen pretty good. We're going to scan the barcode of the location that we're picking from. So again, I'm going to grab the first line, which is, it tells me to go to R1S1. So again, I wouldn't be probably scanning the document. I'm probably going to go to the location and scan that, but this particular document has these barcodes on it, so it makes it easy. I don't think I read it very well. Let's try that again. I have to scan here. All right. Now it tells me to scan the item. So the first line happens to be, it tells me I need to scan my widget, which happens to be a serial numbered item. Now it's going to ask me to scan the lot serial number because this item happens to be a lot serial number. And it's nice that when, again, I'd probably be scanning the serial number on the actual box, but I also can scan it from the pick ticket because this one actually has it. And then it's going to ask me to scan the barcode of the next location. I have to go here. So that one happens to be R1S2. I want to scan the item, which is my ELE board. See it on the screen. Yep. And then I'm probably going to want to set my quantity, or I can scan each one individually if I need to. But in this situation, it tells me I need to pick 3 of my ELE boards. So I'm going to set my quantity to 3. And again, I have the ability to review what I just picked. I picked 3 from R1S2 of my ELE boards. I picked 1 from R1S1 of my widgets. And then I can drill into it and I can see which serial number that I picked as well. So again, if that all looks good, if you notice that it says at the top, if everything has been picked from this pick list, then it will say the shipment has been picked. So then at that point, if I'm not doing a separate packing process, again, there is that change mode at the bottom. It allows me to go into pack mode if I wanted to do a separate pack. Now, what packing mode gives you, well, actually, let's do a packing. I'll show you this. So if I was done with just picking and I didn't need to do a separate packing, there's the 3 dots at the bottom, and I could just confirm the shipment. And everybody knows, if they've worked in sales orders before and shipments before, once you confirm the shipment, you can't edit that shipment anymore. So, you know, again, I'm not sure if that's a process you want the people out there scanning to actually confirm. If they're going to be in packing mode, then it's going to ask me to scan the box barcode or type in what type of box that I'm putting all of these items into. So basically, you could have your UPS boxes, and they might have barcodes, you know, barcode numbers on them where I can easily scan it, or if you've set up like a default box, you can actually just type that in there as well. Now it's going to ask me to scan every item and put the quantity of each item in that I'm putting into that box. So let's scan my ELE board. And I need to make sure I set my quantity. Great. I want to scan the next item, which is my widget. Now, again, you might have separate boxes that you need to confirm each one separately. You can do that if they're going to go into separate boxes. I'm just going to happen to put both of them in the same. And now it's going to ask me to scan the serial number. So let's go back to our pick ticket so I can grab that serial number real quick. Certainly don't want to type it. And if everything that, if I want to review that, I can now see what has been put in this box. I can see that I have 3 of my ELE boards and 1 of my widgets. And if that all looks good, then I can go down here and I can confirm my shipment at that point. Now, if you were integrated with like a shipping integration tool like PaceJet or Starship or any one of those that automatically writes back what the shipment amount is, then once confirming the shipment would write back the shipment, the freight total, as well as any shipping labels would be attached to that shipment, or could automatically print out if you have it set up that way. So let's confirm that shipment. And it says the shipment has been successfully confirmed. All right. Any questions on the pick, pack, ship functionality? Again, I walked through that pretty fast, but again, I can go back to my sales order and I can see, actually, I probably want to go to my shipment. And I can see that it's been confirmed. I can go to my package and I can see that it wrote back that it all was put into a large box with this weight. Again, that's all based in the setup of your items and whether you're doing auto packaging or not. And again, if I had any shipping integration, it would have written back the labels and attached the tracking number and the labels here as well. So that's another nice feature if you are going to integrate any shipping tools. All right, so that basically walks you through, you know, how we've received goods in using the warehouse management functionality, how we now have picked and shipped items from an existing shipment or sales order and getting those out the door using WMS. Now I'm going to walk you through some of the other inventory functionality. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the inventory. You know, again, this would be as if I'm not using sales orders or if I wasn't using receipts. I do have the ability to go to the inventory workspace, and then there's these transactions like receipts, issues, adjustments, transfers, kit assembly. If you notice under automated operations, which is part of the WMS, is I have the ability to do scan and issues, scan and receive, scan and transfer, scan and count. And then I also have an item lookup and a storage lookup. So those, if you look on the right-hand side in the mobile app, those are those other inventory functionality that it's mirroring at this point. So let's walk through doing a scan and receive, just so you can kind of see what that is. And again, that's outside of the purchasing functionality. That's just, I want to bring items in and put it on the shelf, basically. So let's scan the barcode of the location. So I'm going to bring into R1S2, and I'm going to bring in an ELE board. Bring in 5 of those. And I can review that, what I've received in on this particular scan. If I like everything, then I can go through in those 3 dots at the bottom and I can release it. So same functionality as those inventory receipts that we talked about. All right, the next would be is if I want to do like just a scan and transfer. So this would be outside of the receive and put away, where the put away would be the transfer. This is just, I need to move goods around in my warehouse or between warehouses or within locations. So let's do a scan and transfer. I'm taking it out of the origin location, which is going to be into my destination location, which is R1S2. Yep. And I'm going to scan the barcode of the item that I'm actually moving, which is the ELE board. Yep. And it tells me that I have a 0 in R1S1. So let's do a widget move then. Maybe I have a widget. And let's move. Okay, yes. So I was able to move one of the widgets out of R1S1 to R1S2. So if I review that, it shows me what I'm actually transferring and where I'm transferring it to. And then the same thing, when I'm done doing all of my moves or all my transfers, I can just release them. All right. So that's scan and transfer. And then there also is scan and issue. Again, this would be if I wasn't using the sales order functionality. One thing to note for any of you construction people out there, I know that in the scan and issue or just doing a straight inventory issue in the desktop version, if you were to do one of these, like I just do an issue here, it allows you to select a project that you're issuing it to, because I know a lot of construction people don't want to have to go through like a sales order process to issue it to a job. One thing to note, the scan and issue on the mobile app doesn't allow you to select a project. So that's a functionality that just doesn't exist right now. All right, so let's walk through the scan and issue real quick. So we're going to scan the barcode of the location that we're taking it out of. So let's take it out of R1S2. And the item that we're going to be issuing is my ELE boards. Apologize, I'm only working with a couple items here. I thought it would be simpler to not have to print a lot of barcode items out here. And I am going to set my quantity. And I'm going to issue 2 out of the warehouse. And I can review it. And you can see that it tells me that I'm taking 2 out of row 1S2. But again, it doesn't tell me where it's going to. So that's just a straight issue out of the warehouse. Oops. And then obviously I would have to, the last step I forgot to do is I forgot to release it, but you would have to do that as a final step to release it. All right, so we've walked through issues, receives, transfers. The other thing I want to talk about is scan and count, because I think that's a functionality that obviously everybody can use if you have to do like a physical inventory or do a cycle counts. I think doing it through the gun and being able to scan would be a lot easier. I don't know if everybody's familiar with doing physical inventories, but I'll just walk you really quick through that process. Underneath the inventory workspace, there's a section for just physical inventory. And some of the setup that you have to have done to be able to run or to generate a physical inventory is you do have to set up these physical inventory types. I've set up one, you know, they have stuff to use like ABC codes or a calendar cycle. And I've set up one that just says I want to count like just one location, and then it maybe list the items that I want to count in that location. So this one's just a very specific type of count. So this is where you would set up your physical inventory types. And then the other thing that you need to set up are your physical inventory cycles, whether they're annual, monthly, quarterly. So again, you can define your physical inventory cycles ahead of time as well. Now, to initiate a physical inventory, I do have to prepare the physical count. I can't initiate it from like the gun or from the warehouse management features. I have to initiate it from the desktop. So I would prepare a physical count. I would select what type that I'm doing. And in this situation, we're just going to do a real simple one. We're going to do our location. We're just going to count one location and one item. And once I generate this, it's going to create like a physical inventory count number that will be referenced when I start to do the scanning count on the warehouse management feature. So let's generate our physical inventory. Now it takes me to the review screen here. And again, I'm not going to count it on the desktop. I'm going to have somebody else count it from the warehouse management or from the actual mobile app here. So I'm going to, but again, they're going to need to know this number, this reference number. So there are documents you can print out into the warehouse. For example, you can print physical count sheets, which gives the number, allows them to type them in. Obviously, we could make those barcode readable as well. So then all they'd have to do is scan that count sheet number. So you could produce count tags for your locations and your items, and you can also produce count sheets in the system. Okay, so let's go through now the warehouse management function of doing a scan and count. Now that I've actually generated a count sheet. Let's do a scan and count. We're going to scan or enter the reference number of the PI count. In this case, I don't have a barcode for it, so I'm just going to enter in that 000010. So that initiates my physical inventory, and now it asks me to scan the barcode of the location that I'm counting. So I'm going to scan R1S2. And now it's going to ask me to scan the barcode of the item. So it happens to be my ELE board, computer motherboard. And just like the other features, I can scan each one individually, and so it just counts them as it's going, or I can set a quantity. And I'm going to say, you know what, I only counted 12 of those in this location. And if there were other locations or other items to count, it would prompt me to go to the next one. If I'm done, I can just confirm and say that I'm done with my scan and count. Now, what it's doing in the background, once I've completed my counting, and let's update this review right here, is you can see that the Acumatica said the book quantity was 17, but I only counted, my physical quantity was what I just counted was 12. So it tells me I have a variance of 5. So somebody in the back office now has to confirm these differences. And so what they would do is they would finish, when the counting is all done and everybody's said that they're done counting, they would initiate the finish of the counting. Oops. I know sometimes it tells me its process is done, but I did it because I'm using the mobile app and this. But so I finished my counting. It created my cost variance and my quantity variance. And then when I complete it, it's going to create an inventory adjustment in the background for me. So if I go to this adjustment info tab, you can see the actual inventory adjustment that it created based on all of my counts and all the differences. And again, that updates my GL for the difference in the cost as well. All right. Any questions on the inventory functions? We kind of went through those really fast. Let's go back and let you see. There's a couple other functionalities like item lookup and storage lookup, which is kind of nice. So if anybody ever wants to go in and just quickly look up an item, they can scan the barcode of an item. to look at our ERE boards. And it's nice that it tells me I have, 10 on hand sitting in row 1, shelf 1. I have 12 or 17 on hand sitting in row 1, shelf 2. I guess I just didn't release the inventory adjustment. And then 12 available for shipping. So there are, that's a really nice lookup screen just to kind of get a quick review of items. And then there's also a storage lookup. So I can scan the barcode of the location or the cart. A cart can be a storage location as well. So let's look at what's and I can do a review of that, and I can see by item and how many are sitting in that particular location. So that's just another nice feature, is those inventory lookup and storage lookup as well. All right, we kind of went through all of the functionality with WMS. We went through the setup first, just to kind of show you, there's not a ton of setup that needs to be done, a little bit of decision making that needs to be done. I mean, the real bulk of the setup is you internally making sure that you have everything with barcodes, whether it be locations and items, and obviously it would be stock items and non-stock items that you can have that. So at this point, I am going to open it up for any questions. I don't know if anybody has any questions at this point. I'd be happy to stay on for a few more minutes.
I don't see any. Does anybody have anything that they would like to ask? Quiet group.
Well, hopefully they're not thoroughly confused. Hopefully everybody's got something to take out of it.
I did see somebody ask, they must have joined late, if there'll be a recording available, and yes, there will be. Sorry, I missed that question. Yeah. Okay. See anything else? Yes, anybody that either registered and didn't make it or attended will get a copy of a recording of the session.
All right, and so I will just leave it with this with you guys is if you need assistance in either the sales functionality, you can contact your, I don't know if everybody knows who their project manager is, or their what we call PCAM. If you don't know, feel free to reach out to Support and Action. That's aktion.com, and we can initiate it and direct you to the person to walk you through how to purchase the warehouse management module, and or just get support in implementing the warehouse management. Feel free to log a support case on those as well. All right, well, thank you everybody for your time. Hope everybody got something out of it. Feel free to reach out with any questions if something just didn't make sense to you.
Okay, I think that was great. Thanks, Laura.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.